what I could tell the homeowner, if you want to hire a public adjuster, if you're on the fence, just know it's an investment in your time. You have a professional that's dealing with it up front, and you don't have to worry. All you really got to worry about is getting the calls whenever I have a few questions. If you don't want to hire a public adjuster up front, again, never just take the insurance company's word as the final say. Always, always reach out to a public adjuster to have them review the policy, review the claim, just to make sure that you were actually made whole.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Story of You. We have special guest with us today, Andy Goez. He is with Preferred Claim Solutions and is a public adjuster. Andy, tell us a little bit about what you do as a public adjuster at Preferred Claim Solutions.
Awesome. So I help homeowners get what they need for the repairs, usually coming in on the back end of whatever coverage may not be given. So that's really my main function, helping out the homeowners.
Okay. And what kind of losses do you help homeowners with?
I can help out with any loss, but I've really been specializing in roofs, on water losses and fire losses.
Excellent. And do you do solely homes, residences, or do you also do commercial claims?
I do both. And I've even been looking into, which I heard online, cargo loss claims. I'm not handling it, but I'm looking into it to see if there's something I can do there too. Cargo
loss. So what is that?
If there's, for example, they were shipping across seas and there was an issue when it arrived here, that something was broken, something was missing, whatever it may be inside of the cargo itself, they have a policy on those. So they'd be helping out with those type of claims.
Interesting. I have not heard of that before. So, very interesting. So let's talk a little bit about you and your background. Where are you from originally?
Awesome. I was born in New York, but I've been raised in Florida. Moved to Fort Lauderdale in 1999, Orlando in 2003, and I've really been here ever since.
Okay, so you've been in the Orlando area for quite a while then.
Like crazy.
Yes. So are you of Hispanic descent?
Yeah, my family's Colombian.
Excellent. And do you speak Spanish?
Fluently, yeah.
Great. I'm sure. So do you tend to have Spanish speaking homeowners that you're able to help?
The majority. So that you'll see me in mediations or whatever it may be in the translator.
Very good. I could see that being a sort of a niche specialty for you, dealing with, Spanish speakers. So, New York and Florida. So tell me kind of, what were you like in high school? Who was your, were you the band nerd, the smart, A+ student, yeah, or the jock? How would you describe yourself in high school?
Athletic and very quiet. So I was known for being athletic, and I was in martial arts for a lot of years, and I enjoyed it. So it was funny to see because I didn't really have a plan. So I was more to myself, did my schoolwork, got good grades, but yeah, for some reason, everybody knew me because of my athleticism, and it kind of just came secondhand to me always being involved in martial arts and being fit, exercising, having a strict diet. So that's really how I got known. Even though I've never really talked much or been an extrovert, they really just knew, like, oh, okay, Andy, that guy who, like, for example, I was thinking about this the other day. I was in 12th grade, and there was a chassis, just a car chassis. It wasn't the full car. And I think I got to lift that sucker up like an inch, which is pretty incredible because I look at myself now and I can't do that now.
Yeah.
Back when I was 17. So yeah, that's really who I was known for. Just, hey, that guy who's in shape, who knows martial arts, and that was it.
When did you start learning martial arts?
I think I was 10 years old. I was in 4th grade.
So what type of martial arts did you specialize in?
I started with Taekwondo, and I did that up until like 7th grade. And at that point, I started joining kickboxing. and I did a mix of kickboxing, boxing, taekwondo up until 11th grade. And that's
Nice.
really where I stopped. But I kind of kept it going for the next year or so. And after high school, when I started working, I kind of just let that go and dug straight
Yeah.
into work.
It's hard to keep up with sports like that once you start working. So do they have belts? Like, did you work your way up the belt system?
For taekwondo, yeah. I got a bit stagnant once I got into kickboxing. But in taekwondo itself, I got almost up to a blue belt. I got green belt, blue stripe, and
Nice.
at least like the in gym competitions, I was always attending those. And once kickboxing hit, there wasn't really a ranking system for it. But I really thought that was going to be my career at one point. I thought that, hey, the future is going to be a pro kickboxer. But I went to Colombia, funny enough, for 2 weeks. That's the first time I had a break. I was working out like 6 hours a day. And that's the first time I had a break. Yeah. And then when I got back and I went to the gym, I was like, you know what, this is pretty tough. And just slowly, I just started letting go. And that's kind of why I stopped at 11th grade.
Yeah. To be at that peak performance, working 6 hours a day, that I can see if you don't keep up with that you're slowly, taking a break of any sort it's almost like starting all over again when you pick it back up. I feel that same way. If I don't exercise for a couple of days, when I come back, it's like so much harder to get started.
I agree. Routines are crazy.
Yeah. And so working out 6 hours a day, I'm sure you couldn't keep up with that once you started working a full-time job. I can see why that would be difficult too. So do you still do any type of sports or athleticism on the side?
No, not at all. The most exercise I get is walking on roofs.
Okay. So what kind of hobbies do you do then?
Man, I really like to read, watch documentaries. That's really it for hobbies. Other than that, it's just kind of work and just a lot of reading and a lot of documentaries.
What's a good book or documentary that you've seen lately?
I just saw one yesterday, and it was the first time I dove into it for Napoleon, kind of just to give a brief overview of what his life was.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty decent. That's like a regular YouTube history timeline documentary, and they're going from his beginning, his short-lived run as an emperor, and his quick downfall. But a good one. Now this was going to be more on the soap opera side of things, but if anybody's into the Colombian mafia and all that stuff, the Netflix series on Pablo Escobar, El Patrón del Mal, great novella. I think I've seen it maybe 2 or 3 times, and it's fairly accurate to what actually went on. So it's nice to watch.
Have you seen? There's a Netflix series, Narcos. Have you watched Narcos?
I have, and I've heard great things. But me being Colombian, it threw me off when I heard Pablo Escobar in a different accent. So that kind of it threw me off for the full couple episodes that I watched. But I've heard so many great things about it. I just personally got thrown off because I'm used to just hearing it with a Colombian accent, and all of a sudden, it hit me.
So the actor is not Colombian then?
Brazilian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I can understand why that would be strange for you. Do you watch Netflix?
Yes and no. It's really like that soap opera, and then there was another, like, it's really like nostalgia type of things. Because there's that soap opera which I saw as a teenager. There's another one which I saw as a child that's also on there, which is more like a comedic type of soap opera. And that's really it. Just finished Seinfeld a few months ago.
Okay, you're a little late to the party on that one.
Very late, yeah.
There's on Netflix a series that just came out called The Most Hated Man on the Internet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting, it's like a kind of like a documentary on a guy who I don't even want to talk about it, but he would hire someone to what's the word? Hack people's personal computers and take photos off their computers that were not photos they would want to be seen publicly. And then he would put them on his website. And he would put their Facebook profile next to their picture so that people knew who they actually were. It's not like just pictures, but it's their name and Facebook profile. So a lot of people were very upset about that. So ended up being a criminal case and things like that. But it was pretty interesting to watch. So since you're into documentaries, maybe check it out. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Sure. No, that's terrible. I can imagine how much that sucks.
That's why he got and he was very just like arrogant about it too. I mean, he denied doing any of the hacking and initially claimed that people were sending in photos to post. Either an ex, like a disgruntled ex, was sending in photos and posting them. But over time, certain people were like, I never sent these photos to anyone. They were just only on my personal email or whatever. And so once the FBI got involved, they were able to show that he was actually hiring someone to hack these photos off people's personal computers. So interesting. I like those kind of, because I'm in the law, the criminal type documentaries are interesting to me. So sorry to get off topic. Let's talk a little bit about how you got into your profession as a public adjuster. What led you to this field?
Luck, really, because I know I get a lot nowadays, which I kind of enjoy saying when they say, "Hey, like, what are you doing?" I say I'm a public adjuster. Almost everybody looks lost. Like, oh, they kind of just
what is that?
Okay, cool. Exactly. So if they don't ask and they say, okay, I'm like, I know you don't have no idea what I do. But so yeah, it was luck. I was a medical assistant and I kind of have grown where I was gonna be in that company. And I wanted to change. I was originally gonna move to Boston because I went there a good amount as a teenager and I enjoyed it. And I told my best friend that, hey, I'm gonna move, I'm gonna put in my 2 weeks here and I want to do something else. And he kind of said, hey, if you're serious, I have an opportunity for you. Just come and check it out. And that's really how I got started. It was a crazy ride in the beginning, just kind of joining, hopping along and kind of seeing what the field was. And I kind of started getting little by little involved in the industry.
So from medical assistant to public adjuster, that's quite the career change. What kind of medical assisting did you do? What kind of practice did you work with?
It was a family practice.
Okay. And did you do that how long did you do that for?
Did that for a while. I started that when I was 16 up until 21. So 5 years.
Wow.
And that's when I started in here. And I would say it's actually fairly similar because you're still dealing with insurance companies. And that's something that kind of, it off put the people when I first started working in the field, because I'd be like, hey, this is real similar. It's a medical billing. Like at the end of the day, you're dealing with a service that you did or something that you want to get paid for, and you got to dispute it with the insurance company. In the same way that we have our disputes here in this industry, I see it in the medical field too, which is pretty shocking.
So is that something that when you worked with the medical practice, you dealt with the billing side of it?
No, but I always kind of like to learn. So I would see it. I never had to do it and it wasn't my responsibility, but I would see that, hey, like this service wasn't paid for this patient. And then the insurance company will give a kickback saying this is the reason why. And then you had billers giving a dispute as to why it should be paid. So when you look at it, it's a small world.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is definitely similarities. I do homeowners insurance claims and also do medical bill recovery for medical providers as well. So the rules that apply, the policies that apply are different, but there are definitely a lot of similarities. So I can understand what you're saying. So your friend said, hey, come check out this business opportunity as a public adjuster. And you haven't looked back, it seems like.
Not at all.
So what was it about public adjusting that just was a good fit for you?
The biggest thing was the freedom. I went from being in the medical office, and even though I love what I do and I love the doctor that I work with, I still talk to him to this day. I tend to be a bit of a workaholic, and I'd be putting in 10-hour days inside of a square when you think of it. Because you're in a medical office and you're not really moving, you're not going outside. I'd see the rain, I'd see the sunshine, but like that wasn't part of my everyday life other than Sunday. So when I got to this job and it was like, I'm just driving from point A to point B most of the time, especially starting out where, for example, I'd be in Miami, but I had a Tampa person call me and I wanted to go check out a Tampa loss to just drive. And most of my time would be driving. I kind of felt that freedom behind it. And that was the number one draw in the beginning. But definitely it's changed and it's become a pretty big passion of mine in regards to what we actually do and how we can help homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that freedom was it.
Yeah. So you like to be outdoors, moving around, going different places, not in the same office environment all day, every day, seems like.
Yeah. And I'd say the biggest thing is to control your time. So, okay, I can set this appointment here. I love to go to Colombia, so I can be in Colombia and still do mediations. I can still do meetings because of Zoom, luckily. So it's been a blessing.
So you still have family in Colombia?
I do. I'd say 30% of my family is still in Colombia.
Nice. So what do you do when you go to Colombia other than visit family?
I've really seen it as a growing country, so I've been kind of trying to set up there as well, kind of look at real estate, invest in real estate. And that's been it. I just see it growing, and I know it's a bit off subject, but you see the real estate market a bit hot here, and your money can only stretch so far. And when the dollar value is so high over there right now, and you're still looking at land, I say, okay, it may be a good point to buy here now.
Okay. So you're a real estate investor also, or a hopeful?
Yeah, hopeful. I wouldn't say I'm quite the real estate investor yet, but I'm trying to grow there.
Excellent. So if a homeowner has had a storm come through, damages their home, and they're contemplating whether to hire a public adjuster or not, what are some things that you would tell them to help them with making that decision?
Sure. Up front, I'd really say it's an investment in time. So if you guys want to deal with it up front, perfect. As the homeowner, just understand you're going to have to follow up. It's something that you got to be persistent in. But I'm not opposed to the insured handling things up front. So if they're okay with, hey, let me handle it up front and I come in on the back end, perfect. In regards to them hiring a public adjuster, I think it's at least a necessity to always have a public adjuster review the claim, even after it's been made. So if a coverage determination was given, I would never take that as a final word. And I know everybody in the industry is different. Some people say, hey, you got to be in there up front. Some people are also just believe that you should be in there for supplementals. It changes. But in my opinion, what I could tell the homeowner, if you want to hire a public adjuster, if you're on the fence, just know it's an investment in your time. You have a professional that's dealing with it up front and you don't have to worry. All you really got to worry about is get in the calls whenever I have a few questions, or get in the car to say, hey, look, we got initial coverage and here's what we have on the table, and kind of begin to negotiate or walk you through the next steps. Now, if you don't want to hire a public adjuster up front, again, never just take the insurance company's word as the final say. Always reach out to a public adjuster to have them review the policy, review the claim, just to make sure that you were actually made whole. Because it's not the industry. Just like I wouldn't go over to a mechanic and say, hey, I don't think you're doing this right. Or hey, I think that my car is fully repaired, but I don't know nothing about mechanics. I think you should always get a second opinion before taking the insurance company's word for it.
Okay. So if they do decide to move forward with your services, what are some of the things that you do to help to get the claim paid fairly?
So I link the damages that you have to whatever coverage is available to the policy. So you kind of got to also see how it's written out. I can go into an interesting story about mobile homes because I'm dealing with a good amount of them due to the Sebring hailstorm that happened in April. And it's small things like ordinance and law. So I have the insurance company that didn't pay for that up front, but you got to see how the policy is written. So you have the damage, ordinance and law is required. So we checked the policy, and over the top in the additional coverages, ordinance and law wasn't included. However, when you look at the actual policy, the only section where it had anything to say with ordinance and law, it was on the exclusions. The exclusion section said that when a loss occurs because of ordinance and law, it's excluded, no coverage, this and that. Perfect. I got to check out another mobile home policy, which did define it in the way that if it's a loss or if it's a consequence of a covered loss, ordinance and law is excluded, unless you purchase it as an additional coverage. So for the people who had the first policy I mentioned, the one that just said, if a loss occurs and it's excluded as ordinance and law, then I was still able to get them that coverage. Even though the carrier showed them the policy and said, hey, look, this is excluded. And I told them, I asked them up front, and they told me it was excluded. I gave my reasoning. I sent them a copy of both policies. And now all the clients that I have with that insurance policy are getting their ordinance and law coverage. So it's really linking the damages to the policy and making sure that nothing is missed.
Okay. So these insurance policies can be pretty complex for someone who doesn't work in the insurance industry. So it's even the explanation you just gave of ordinance and law, I think some people would not even understand what you were talking about because they have so little knowledge of the insurance policy. So it sounds like if someone chooses to go forward with you as a public adjuster, you can explain to them what the policy says and help them to understand what coverages they have. Am I understanding correctly? Excellent. So when you have a client, a homeowner, a business owner, how do you go about keeping them informed of what's going on with their claim?
Sure. So I have office staff that helps me out day to day to go ahead and keep everything going. Mainly me as a public adjuster, you'll see me in there once the dispute actually arises and we're actually talking about coverage with the desk adjuster. At that time, that's when you hear back from me to let them know, hey, look, this is what's going on. This is what's on the table. These are my recommendations. But other than that, you have the staff that's updating you every 2 weeks. And then they always have access to me. So they have my cell phone number. They're able to text me. They're able to call me. I tell everybody day to day, I get a little swamped throughout the 9 to 5 time. But usually around 5:30, 6 p.m. is when I'm returning everybody's call. I'm getting to my text and keep it moving forward.
Sure. I think that's important. I can understand that homeowners probably want to, if they've got damage to their home or their roof and they've got a leaky roof, they probably want to be updated pretty regularly about what's going on. So, do you have any particular success stories or, claims that you've gotten paid that you're particularly proud of? Of course, can't give names or certain details, but just generally speaking.
Generally speaking, yeah, I think my proudest ones are the denial overturns, just because those are the ones where I can literally come and say, hey, I was able to help this result literally get changed. It was a full denial, and now I got pretty close to my full estimate paid, or I got coverage back on the table, and we were able to get negotiated. Kind of tough because they have all releases on them. But there is a avatar overturn which I'm particularly proud of in mediation, and it was just the fact that it went in there as a full denial, and I was still able to get an agreement once mediation was done. I'd want to say that's my proudest moment as a public adjuster.
And how do your clients feel when you're able to get them, a result that is, makes them able to make the repairs to their home that are needed?
They're ecstatic. They're ecstatic, and a lot of times it's kind of like for them a sigh of relief. Because sometimes when I go in there and I explain, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get this coverage, a lot of people look at me and say, hey, like, I'm not sure how you're getting there, but okay. So there's kind of like that level of disbelief, like, hey, is this guy going to go ahead and pull through? And when I actually come and say, hey, look, we got all of this covered, most of them are like, wow, like, did this guy actually pull through? He didn't just come in here and give me a presentation. I'm getting the results that we talked about in the beginning.
Yeah. And does that feeling of knowing that you're helping people, does that also add to why you enjoy your profession and are still doing it now 3 years later?
Heck yeah. Yeah. Now it's growing into that. Like I said, initially it was like, hey, this is completely different. I had the freedom. it's kind of tough to explain, but in the beginning, when you don't have too much knowledge to back everything up, I'd go to inspections and all I hear is the field adjuster or the carrier adjuster tell me one thing. And you begin, or at least personally, you begin to doubt yourself like, hey, like, they're making a good point. I don't have a response to that. And my mentor, I'd go to him, but keep in mind that my mentor has been in this game for years. So he has all the background knowledge. He just give me a specific, oh, don't worry, and just give me a statement. And I'm more like a real analytical person. So I would just have that statement with no background info. When I had the carrier adjuster just coming in here and giving me all their full breakdown of why their opinion is right. When I started to realize that, hey, we're in the right, the carrier may not agree with it, but this is the way that the policy is written, because it all just comes back to the policy. It's that simple detail that whatever the policy states is what goes. Once you kind of fall into that realization, it changed everything for me. And it really grew into a passion where I knew for certainty that, hey, the insurance company isn't right here. They may be stating this or got trained this way to go ahead and interpret it this way, but it's not the way it is. So yeah, it's grown into a passion to be able to actually deliver for clients.
So
seeing that happiness once they actually get the settlement.
Yeah, absolutely. That must be so gratifying to know that you're helping people in that way. So it looks like you're in your vehicle. Is that where you spend a lot of your time as a public adjuster, out on the road?
Yeah, this is my main office, to be honest.
Yeah, I can definitely understand. You're out checking on homes, talking to clients all the time. So what territory do you cover?
Mainly Orlando, Central Florida, and Tampa. I'm available for anyone in Florida. But yeah, this is my main area.
Nice. And if someone was interested in contacting you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Sure. My cell phone number. Can I go ahead and give it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. It's 407-244-6509.
Say the last part. 65 what?
6509.
Okay. I took it down also because I can maybe have it put on the screen so people can see it easier. So where do you see yourself going from here in the next several years, both personally and professionally?
Just expanding is really what I'm trying to do. Going to other states to see how I can help out. I also personally enjoy the challenge of disputing coverage whenever it is there. So like I mentioned, I'm also looking into that cargo ship insurance to see what I can do there. So just grow within the industry itself, because I see it as a beautiful thing for us to be able to help out. And I kind of want to just keep expanding, keep training people below me and have them blossom as well. And just provide the service everywhere I can.
Excellent. Well, with the work ethic that it seems like you have, I have no doubt that you will accomplish your goals of continuing to expand in this industry. So I want to thank you for being here. Do you have any final last thoughts that you'd like to share before we sign off?
Just want to thank you for the opportunity, and that's it. I'm here available for whoever needs me.
It's my pleasure. And thank you again so much, Andy, for your time. And with that, we will go ahead and conclude today's episode. Till next time.
Thank you, Brooke.